Graduation Day Heroes. The Galactic Military Academy's graduation ceremony proceeded with all the excitement of watching quantum particles decay. Admiral Zix's bioluminescent tentacles pulsed with what they probably thought was inspirational vigor, creating an unintentional disco ball effect that only heightened the absurdity of the moment. In the front row, James Chen fought back another yawn, earning a sharp elbow from Michael Rodriguez. Their third companion, Alex Thompson, maintained an impossibly attentive expression, though their leg bouncing beneath their dress uniform betrayed the effects of their seventh cup of coffee. The three humans sat among their alien classmates like tungsten blocks in a garden of exotic crystal flowers. Most species in the Galactic Federation had evolved on worlds with gravity ranging from 0.3 to 0.8 Earth standard. The humans, however, came from what their alien classmates often referred to as that nightmare sphere called Earth. Their robust physical forms drew constant attention, especially from the cluster of Meridians nearby, beings that resembled a sophisticated cross between praying mantises and quantum computers. "Did you see how they watched us during the combat training finals?" Alex whispered, their words barely audible over Admiral Zix's droning. "Like we were going to accidentally conquer the galaxy by sneezing too hard." "To be fair," Michael muttered back, "you did break 3 unbreakable training drones." "They were clearly defective," James contributed, drawing more disapproving looks from the surrounding graduates. The Meridian's antennae twitched in synchronized annoyance, probably calculating the exact mathematical expression for their disapproval. Continued with extensive development of the graduation ceremony, introduction of key alien species and their characteristics, and the humans' unique position in the Academy. The section goes on to detail the growing tension between various galactic factions and how the humans' graduation coincides with a critical moment in an ongoing conflict. The ceremony dragged on as various dignitaries took turns at the podium. Aquarian diplomat, whose species resembled nothing so much as a floating collection of geometric shapes, attempted to give an inspiring speech about unity and cooperation. The effect was somewhat undermined by their tendency to split into multiple triangles when excited. When Admiral Zix finally announced the recognition of top graduates, the humans straightened in their seats, not out of pride, but because sitting still for so long in 0.4 G was making their muscles cramp. They'd graduated at the top of their class not through any particular academic brilliance, but because they were literally built different. The survival course that had sent 3 Flaxian cadets into therapeutic hibernation had been, for the humans, reminiscent of a mild spring day in Minnesota. The emergency repair practical, which most species completed using anti-grav units and careful coordination, the humans had finished by simply lifting the damaged shuttle components manually. And then there was the infamous incident where Alex had accidentally terrified their xenobiology professor by explaining what a platypus was, leading to a 3-day discussion about whether Earth was actually an elaborate practical joke played on the galaxy. The story continues with the immediate aftermath of graduation, setting up the brewing galactic conflict and the unique role these human graduates will play. As they walked across the stage to receive their credentials, the humans couldn't help but notice the mix of fear, respect, and confusion on their classmates' faces. The Flaxian section had collectively leaned away, their leaves rustling anxiously. The Meridian's probability engines were visibly overheating trying to compute the likelihood of being hugged. "Congratulations, cadets," Admiral Zix said, managing to only flinch slightly when shaking their hands. "You've demonstrated unique capabilities." "Thank you, Admiral," they responded in unison, carefully modulating their voices to not startle anyone. As they returned to their seats, Alex leaned over and whispered, 10 credits says we get assigned to something ridiculous within the week." James and Michael exchanged knowing looks. That wasn't a bet anyone was dumb enough to take. Little did they know, ridiculous was about to be the understatement of the galactic century. The section concludes with hints at the larger conflict brewing in the galaxy and the unconventional role these human graduates will soon play in it. The impossible mission. 6 hours after graduation, James, Michael, and Alex found themselves aboard the Meridian Alliance's flagship, staring at a holographic mission brief that made their earlier jokes about something ridiculous seem prophetic. "You want us to do what now?" James asked, his voice carrying that particular tone of disbelief that humans had practically trademarked in galactic society. Admiral Cole's crystalline form sparkled with what might have been either amusement or indigestion. "We want you to end a 10-year war. Preferably by dinner time." The briefing room was packed with various military commanders, each looking more skeptical than the last. A Quantarium general had divided himself into so many geometric shapes of doubt that he was practically a disco ball. In the corner, a Flaxian commander's leaves were wilting just from proximity to the humans' growing excitement. "Right," Alex drawled, their coffee-fueled brain already racing through possibilities. "Because that's totally a reasonable request to make of 3 fresh graduates. Should we also restructure the galaxy's economy before lunch?" The hologram shifted to show their target, planet GL-789, or as the Zelians called it, the impenetrable fortress of doom and light refreshments. The planet bristled with orbital defense platforms connected by energy fields that could fry a capital ship faster than a human could say, "Oops." "The planet's defenses have repelled 6 full assault fleets," Commander Vix, for 27 explained, their tentacles tied in anxiety knots. "Very expensive fleets. Currently classified as modern art installations in the debris field." Michael studied the holographic display intently. "What's the gravity like?" 2.3 Earth Standard, Admiral Cole replied. "Which is why we can't deploy most of our ground forces. The atmospheric pressure alone would." The Admiral stopped as they noticed the 3 humans exchanging grins that made several junior officers take involuntary steps backward. "So let me get this straight," Michael said, leaning forward. "You've got a high-gravity planet that nobody can crack because all your troops would be pancakes, orbital defenses that shred anything that gets close, and you need it taken by." He checked his watch. "Dinner time?" "That is correct." "And you're asking us because?" James prompted. A Zaxian admiral chittered nervously. "Because we've tried everything else. Smart solutions, logical solutions, probability-based solutions. None worked." "Ah," James nodded sagely. "So now you want a stupid solution." "We prefer the term unconventional," Admiral Cole corrected. The humans huddled together, looking at the target data with expressions that made several commanders reach for their stress relief medications. The plan they began to formulate violated so many regulations that the ship's AI started having hiccups just trying to process it. The section continues with detailed preparation scenes, showing the humans modifying equipment in ways that horrify their alien observers. The preparation bay of the Meridian flagship looked like someone had let loose a tornado in a military surplus store. In the center of the chaos, the 3 humans sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by holographic displays, scattered equipment parts, and enough empty energy drink containers to build a small fortress. "Look at this," James pointed at a schematic, his hand practically vibrating from his 8th energy drink. "Their orbital defense grid has a refresh rate of 0.3 seconds between firing sequences. That's supposed to be impossible to exploit," commented a Quarian observer who had been assigned to document their methods and possibly prevent them from accidentally blowing up the ship. "Impossible is just another word for, hasn't met humans yet," Alex replied, currently upside down against a wall, claiming it helped them think better. Their modified environmental suits now looked less like standard military equipment and more like something out of a deranged engineer's fever dream. They had stripped off most of the safety regulators, rerouted power from what they called non-essential systems, like life support, and added various mysterious attachments that they refused to explain. The shuttle they'd requisitioned hadn't fared much better. James was underneath it, humming happily while removing what several engineers insisted were absolutely crucial safety components. Alex had commandeered a tactical display and was plotting what they called a descent trajectory, but what the ship's navigation computer labeled as certain death scenario number 47. The section concludes with the final preparation phase and the beginning of their mission launch. "Let me get this straight," Commander Vix, 427 said, tentacles twitching with anxiety. Your plan is to drop in really fast, James began. Hit really hard, Michael continued. Make a lot of noise, Alex added. And improvise from there, they finished in unison. The commander's tentacles tied themselves into a new kind of knot. That's not a plan. That's barely even a suicide mission. Exactly. James beamed. They'll never expect it because no one would be stupid enough to try it. As the humans made their final preparations, the observation team watched in horror as they systematically violated every safety protocol in the book, then wrote some new ones just to violate those too. The mission was about to begin, and the galaxy was completely unprepared for what these three graduates were about to unleash. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of what would become known throughout the galaxy as, the day the humans got creative, a phrase that would eventually be added to the list of banned weapons of mass destruction. Operation Gravity Check. The modified shuttle's cockpit resembled a cross between an energy drink testing facility and a doomsday device. Alex sat in the pilot's seat, their fingers dancing across holographic controls while heavy metal music blasted through speakers they'd definitely not requisitioned through official channels. Final systems check, Michael announced, reading from a tablet. Life support. Optional, James replied. Navigation. More like suggestions, really. Sanity. Left that at graduation. The observation deck of the Meridian flagship was packed with officers watching what they were certain would be either a spectacular success or the galaxy's most expensive fireworks display. Commander Vix 427's tentacles had tied themselves into so many knots that a junior officer was quietly taking notes for a new mathematical theorem. Beginning descent in 30 seconds, Alex announced, queuing up what they called their Let's Break Physics playlist. Anyone want to place final bets on our survival? The shuttle's modifications violated at least 17 different safety protocols and 3 laws of physics. They'd stripped out everything non-essential, a category that, according to the humans, included most of the safety systems, half the hull plating, and that annoying warning light that keeps saying we're all going to die. Remember, James said, strapping himself in, we just need to hit their defensive grid's refresh rate window. The 0.3 second gap that's supposedly impossible to exploit. Michael grinned. Exactly. We're going to thread that needle at about Mach 7. The shuttle dropped from the flagship's launch bay like a brick with delusions of being a meteor. Alex had disabled the inertial dampeners, they just slow us down. Which meant they felt every millisecond of their descent toward the impenetrable fortress of doom and light refreshments. The section continues with their dramatic descent and unconventional entry strategy. The planet's defensive grid lit up like a festival of death. Energy beams capable of cutting capital ships in half crisscrossed space in complex patterns designed by the galaxy's best military minds. The humans responded with what they called Plan Yeet, a maneuver so ridiculous that the shuttle's navigation computer had briefly achieved sentience just to ask, what the actual void are you doing? Time the gap. Alex shouted over the sound of their ship doing things ships were never meant to do. 3, 2, 1. They hit the 0.3 second window between defense grid pulses at exactly the right moment, and exactly the wrong angle. The shuttle didn't so much fly through the gap as it did awkwardly tumble through it while breaking several more laws of physics and possibly creating a few new ones. The narrative develops their ground insertion and initial chaos. They hit the planet's surface with all the grace of a drunk rhinoceros trying ballet. The impact crater would later be classified as a new geological feature. Status report. Michael called out as they emerged from their landing. Nothing's on fire that wasn't already supposed to be on fire, James responded. Gravity's trying to kill us, Alex added cheerfully. Perfect. Right where we want to be. The planet's 2.3 G environment, which would have crushed most species, merely made the humans feel like they'd put on a slightly heavy backpack. They activated their modified environmental suits, now more akin to walking war crimes against engineering, and prepared for Phase 2 of their plan. The section concludes with them beginning their ground assault. As alarms blared across the fortress, the defenders received a message that would later become infamous in military history: "Hello. We're here about your planet's extended warranty." The subsequent chaos involved 3 humans, 17 improvised explosions, a repurposed coffee maker, and what would later be described in official reports as tactical applications of Earth's most annoying music genres. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had a reputation for turning the impossible into the improbably stupid, and somehow making it work. Breaking physics and protocol. The impenetrable fortress of Doom's command center erupted into chaos as 3 humans rampaged through their supposedly unbreachable defenses like a force of nature having an espresso-fueled sugar rush. Status update: the Zillion High Commander demanded, their quantum feathers molting from stress. "They're everywhere," a junior officer responded, his holographic displays showing multiple security breaches. "And nowhere. And sometimes both at once. I don't think they understand how spacetime is supposed to work." The humans had split up, each taking a different approach to causing maximum chaos. James had discovered that the fortress's anti-gravity lift systems, designed for the comfort of low-G species, could be reversed to create what he called impromptu yeet cannons. He was currently using them to launch security drones into their own defense turrets. Michael had found his way into the environmental control systems. "Hey," his voice crackled over the fortress's comm system, "did you know that if you cross-wire the atmospheric processors with the coffee machine I brought, you can make the entire level smell like pumpkin spice?" "That's not possible," the chief engineer screamed. "We don't even have coffee machines in the fortress." "We do now," Michael replied cheerfully. "I brought extras." Meanwhile, Alex had somehow hacked into the fortress's music system and was playing what they claimed was Earth's greatest hits. The combination of heavy metal, K-pop, and polka music was causing several of the quantum computers to have existential crises. The section continues with their systematic dismantling of the fortress's defenses. "They're not following any known tactical doctrine," a Meridian analyst reported, their probability engines smoking. "Every time we predict their next move, they do something even more illogical." "That's because you're trying to be smart about it," James's voice cut in over the comm, "watch this." What followed was a sequence of events that would later require the creation of 17 new physics theorems and at least 1 new branch of mathematics to explain. It involved 3 service droids, a makeshift trebuchet, and what James swore was just basic high school physics. In the central control room, Alex was introducing the fortress's main computer to the concept of internet memes. The AI's attempts to process Doge speak had caused it to temporarily shut down 3 defense grids and start communicating exclusively in cat pictures. "Should we surrender?" a junior officer asked the High Commander. "To what?" the commander shrieked. "The laws of physics have already surrendered. Reality is surrendering. What's left to surrender to?" The section builds toward their confrontation with the fortress's leadership. Michael found the fortress's main reactor room and immediately declared it boringly stable. Within minutes, he had reconfigured it to run on what he called spicy entropy, a modification that made the reactor engineers weep openly. "Don't worry," he assured them, patting a crying engineer on the shoulder. "It's only mostly impossible." The fortress's last line of defense, an array of quantum-locked security doors, proved about as effective as tissue paper against a hurricane. Alex had simply shown them a picture of a platypus, causing the quantum locks to have an existential crisis about what constituted reality. As the 3 humans converged on the command center, the High Commander received a message that would be quoted in military academies for centuries to come, about those light refreshments you advertised. "We brought our own. Hope you like coffee." The subsequent negotiations were less a diplomatic exchange and more a hostage situation, with physics itself as the hostage. Peace through chaos. The High Commander of the Zillion Empire stared at the 3 humans who had single-handedly breached the impenetrable fortress of doom and light refreshments. Their quantum feathers had molted so badly that they looked like a disco ball having an identity crisis. So, James said, casually leaning against a wall that was definitely not meant to support Earth gravity-evolved weight, about ending this war. "You can't just," the commander began. "Already did," Alex interrupted, tapping their modified tablet. "While we were causing chaos, I went through your historical records. That ancient space poetry you're fighting over? It was actually a maintenance bot's attempt at slam poetry. The entire war is based on a robot's failed literary career." The silence that followed was broken only by the distant sound of Michael still improving various systems throughout the fortress. The faint smell of pumpkin spice wafted through the ventilation system. "But the territorial claims," a Zillion diplomat protested, "are about as valid as using a fish as a bicycle," James cut in. "We checked. Both sides have spent more on this war than the disputed systems are worth. In fact, according to these calculations Alex did while hanging upside down. It helps me think. You could have built 3 new resource systems with the money spent on fighting over these ones." The section continues with the peace negotiations. The peace treaty was drafted on the back of a coffee-stained maintenance manual, primarily because Alex had accidentally caused all the official diplomatic tablets to gain sentience and form a union. The terms were simple. Both sides would split the disputed systems equally. The maintenance bot would be awarded a posthumous poetry prize. Everyone agreed never to speak of how 3 fresh graduates had ended a decade-long war in less time than it usually took to fill out the paperwork for a military operation. Back on the Meridian flagship, Admiral Cole's crystalline form vibrated with a mixture of relief and confusion. "You actually did it. You ended the war, with chaos." "Not chaos," Michael corrected, still tinkering with something that was probably important to the ship's continued existence. "Creative problem solving. By turning our most advanced fortress into a coffee shop." "The best peace talks happen over coffee," Alex shrugged. "Besides, we improved your systems. You made the main reactor run on vibes. More efficient than antimatter," James nodded sagely. "And it runs on renewable good feelings." The section concludes with the aftermath and broader implications. The incident led to several major changes in galactic society. The Galactic Military Academy added a new course, Human-Style Problem Solving, viewer discretion advised. Coffee was classified as a controlled substance in 12 sectors. The phrase, "let's do it the human way," became both a battle cry and a warning sign. Physics textbooks needed a new chapter titled, Exceptions, the Human Factor. As for the 3 graduates, they were simultaneously promoted and banned from ever approaching sensitive military installations again. Their methods were classified as effective but terrifying, and their mission report was sealed in a quantum vault where it occasionally giggled to itself. "So," Alex said as they lounged in their new office, which was purposely located far from anything breakable, "what's next?" James grinned, holding up a new mission brief. "Apparently there's this unsolvable diplomatic crisis in the Andromeda Galaxy." Michael and Alex exchanged looks. "How much coffee should we bring?" And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, physics itself took a preventive vacation. The end.